In section 5.2, we're talking about polynomials, linear factors, and zeros. So first, let's work with writing a polynomial in factored form. I want to know what is the factored form of the function x cubed minus 2x squared minus 15x. So right now, this is in standard form, and I'm going to move this into factored form. So looking at this equation, what I first want to do is ask myself, is there anything that all of these terms share that I could pull out? Here I could see that these all share an x, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. When I rewrite my function, now I have x times x squared minus 2x minus 15. Now, inside that parentheses, I have a quadratic trinomial, which I can factor like what I did in chapter 4. So using the AC method, I want two numbers that multiply to give me negative 15 and add up to give me negative 2. Thinking through my options, I see that negative 5 and 3 are going to work here. So I'm going to rewrite everything in the middle there as x times x minus 5 times x plus 3. Now I would be in factored form. What's beneficial about factored form is it could easily help me find zeros of a function or a graph. So here I want to know what are the zeros of f of x equals x plus 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 3. This is already in factored form, so just looking at this function and using the zero product property, I can find my zeros easily. So looking at this, remembering the zero product property, if I could get any one of those parentheses to equal 0, that's going to make the entire equation 0. So I'm going to separate all of these terms out. I'm going to set x plus 2 equal to 0, x minus 1 equal to 0, and x minus 3 equal to 0. So solving for x in each of these, x could equal negative 2, 1, or 3, and those would be all of my possible zeros. If I wanted to double check this, if I plugged this function into a graphing calculator, I would see here for this cubic function, I crossed the x-axis 3 times, and those 3 points where I crossed the x-axis are negative 2, 1, and 3. So finally, this is going to be the most tedious part of this video. I want to be able to also write in standard form for a polynomial given my zeros. So this is kind of working the other way. I want to know here, what is a cubic polynomial function in standard form with zeros negative 2, 2, and 3? So what I'm going to do first is using my zeros, I'm going to write this equation in factored form to start. So if my zeros are at negative 2, 2, and 3, factored form of this equation would be x plus 2 times x minus 2 times x minus 3. Also notice how I'm changing the sign, putting this in factored form. So for example, if I have a 0 at positive 3, I'm going to write that in factored form as x minus 3. That's just important to make note of. I think that's probably the most common mistake to start with these problems. From here, how I'm going to want to work with this is I want to get rid of all the parentheses and I want to multiply everything out. Again, this can get really tedious, so you want to have kind of an organized thought process going through these. Personally, what I do is I'm going to FOIL those last two terms, then I'll work with that x plus 2 in the beginning. So when I start to FOIL, I have x squared minus 3x minus 2x plus 6. Putting that in parentheses, I'm going to bring down that x plus 2. Inside the parentheses, I'm going to combine like terms just to make life easier on myself. So now I'm left with x plus 2 times x squared minus 5x plus 6. What I'm going to do from here is I'm going to distribute out that x and distribute out that 2. Also keep in mind, just to kind of double check with yourself, this equation has 2 terms in it, this has 3. I'm multiplying 2 terms by 3 terms. I should get 6 terms when I multiply everything out. So when I first start to multiply through, I get x cubed minus 5x squared plus 6x plus 2x squared minus 10x plus 12. Here you could see I have 6 terms. Now I'm going to combine like terms and then I'll reach my final answer. So the x squareds will combine. My x's, or everything to that first degree, will combine. So my final answer, a polynomial with all of those zeros in standard form, would be x cubed minus 3x squared minus 4x plus 12. So the last thing that we're going to cover in this video is we're going to work with a quartic function. So brace yourself. This question might get a little bit overwhelming, but it'll make us really good at doing just general algebra and distributing and all that fun stuff. I want to know, what is a quartic function? So again, the degree 4 a quartic function in standard form with the following zeros: -2, -2, 2, and 3. So same thing as that last problem, I'm first going to write this in standard form. So in standard form, or not standard form, factored form, I have f of x equals x plus 2 times x plus 2 times x minus 2 times x minus 3. From here, I'm going to kind of FOIL the first two parentheses and then the last two parentheses and then work from there. So if I FOIL x plus 2 times x plus 2, I'll get x squared plus 4x plus 4. If I distribute or FOIL out everything in these last two parentheses, I'm left with x squared minus 5x plus 6. Now I'm going to multiply or distribute all of those three top terms to the other three terms, so on and so forth. Keep in mind here, again, to make note of, I'm multiplying 3 terms by 3 terms. I should have 9 terms after I fully multiply everything. So to start here, x squared times x squared will give me x to the 4th, minus 5x cubed, plus 6x squared. Now to that next term, to 4x, I'll do the same thing. Plus 4x squared cubed, minus 20x squared, plus 24x. Finally, to that last term there with the 4, plus 4x squared, minus 20x, plus 24. So here I have 9 terms. This is a very long equation. My last step will be to just combine like terms. X to the 4th was the only thing with degree 4. Now I'm going to search for everything that is to the 3rd power. I see I have 2 terms that do that. Then I'm going to look for everything with x squared. That'll combine to be minus 10x squared. I'm going to look for everything with just an x to the 1st power. That'll combine to give me plus 4x. And finally, I only had one constant term. So after all that work, I found that my quartic function in standard form would be x4 minus x cubed minus 10x squared plus 4x plus 24. And the last thing that we're going to talk about today is, let's say, so in this problem, you might have noticed it might look kind of weird that I have -2 written down twice. And there's a special thing that we call that when a 0 shows up multiple times. So you could rewrite in factored form that equation that we just had as x plus 2 squared times x minus 2 times x minus 3. And that repeated linear factor makes that -2 a multiple 0. Or we say that that factor -2 has a multiplicity of 2 because it shows up twice. So in general, I'd make sure to write this down. A 0 of multiplicity n means that x minus a appears n times as a factor. We'll talk about that a little bit more in class. I'll just have this in your notes for now. And that is it.